Welcome to Ask the Accountant, the podcast that is made for you. Weekly podcast live Mondays from 8:30 a.m., released on the podcast service of your choice on Wednesdays. Your main weekly hosts, Aaron, Patrick, and Johann. Got something to ask? Submit your questions below or ask during the show. Podcast loading. We are currently getting everything set up behind the scenes, so sit back, relax, and we will be with you in a few seconds. Enjoy.
Good morning, everybody, and a very, very warm welcome to Ask the Accountant. Today is episode number 16, and the date is the 30th of January 2023. We've got one day to go, haven't we? I'm not going to do the countdown this time around. I think everyone can count it down today, so we're absolutely fine. My name is Aaron Patrick, as always, and with me is my co-host Johann. Johann, how has your week been? Have you been enjoying the January rush?
Oh, I have, yeah. Good morning. I've had a very good week last week. Lots going on. I was speaking at the British Canoe Union's virtual conference.
Was it? So you didn't get to go in any canoes?
No, I didn't get no. For safety and insurance purposes, they wouldn't let me. and then I was away this weekend at a friend's for our annual catch-up, which is 24 hours of just relaxing, catching up, plenty of whiskey and background music. So, very nice, chilled weekend before tax return deadline, which is in 15 hours, 25 minutes and 19 seconds.
Stole my life. Is it 15 hours? How is it 15 hours? I don't think you put the right date in there, if I'm honest.
Until... Oh, one day, 15 hours. Don't panic, everyone. You've got.
I can just imagine all our listeners like, "What's going on?" Panic stations.
I mean, if you listen to this on the podcast, you've had it.
yeah, that is very true. Yeah. If you are listening to the podcast, I'm unlucky. Speaking of the January deadline, let's go through our topics of today because we've got a few January bits and pieces to bring in. So I thought let's start with a bit of feedback on this year's tax return season. What have we learned? What are our takeaways? And what takeaways have you guys got? Get in that comments below. Let us know if how it's been this year, what's happening, anything that you've kind of found strange or you want to share with the team. Let us know in the comment section. Then we're going to talk about how a recurring theme on the show that how 24 hours on hold to HMRC is costing clients and practices. We'll just revisit that one quickly. And then we're going to talk about, unfortunately, the first casualty of MTD ITSA going away and some vendor, unfortunately, not with us anymore. And then we're going to finish the show on a bit of a hot topic, a hot take. There's been a very popular vendor out there has released a bit of a video about a chicken, and we're going to review it live on the show and understand exactly what we think of it. So yeah, we're going to bring that to the boil, pun intended. Do you boil a chicken? I suppose you do, don't you? You do. Well, you boil the eggs, don't you? So
you boil the eggs.
Yeah. It was almost there.
The advert, aren't we? That's what we're doing. We're going to do. We're going to roast the advert like you would a chicken.
Very good. I love it. Yeah. So let's just start with that one. So as I said, if you do have any questions, then please use that comment section. We've already got a couple of people in. So Paul, good morning. How's it going? Ashley there telling us we've got 2 days to go. Yeah, I'm sure you're really struggling with your tax return deadline there, Ashley. So yeah, good. Thanks for being here. And we've got the US tax as well coming through that. So excellent. Right, let's go with that first topic then, and let's have some feedback from this year's returns. I've got a few kind of notes my end of, let's just say, frustrations I've had this year. What about you then, Johan? Do you want to start us off? What's your feedback this year? How's it been your end? I know you've had a few kind of hot takes on taking over or leave it, or people leaving it to the last minute, and do you take those clients on or not? But what's been your overall take?
Yeah, I mean, overall, I think I couldn't be prouder of the team at the moment. We increased the number of tax returns we're doing this year by 62.5% compared to last year. And we're further ahead now than we were this time last year. So the team have absolutely smashed it. Really pleased with that. We were doing really well between April and July of getting proactive and getting tax returns in and filed and encouraging clients. We then made an acquisition in August of Mind Your Assets, and then that sidetracked myself and my key management team to deal with that and get that all on board. And what we have realised come December is actually we never refocused or maintained any focus on tax pushing. So yeah, lesson learned this year is we're going to have someone that's going to be responsible for tax return deadlines, and nothing like they will have other responsibilities, but big things like acquisitions won't sit on their radar, so they haven't got to worry about being distracted, basically. Right. But yeah, just having a proactive approach, constant visibility, practice management software has been key for me. Like, you know, I know when I went home on Friday, we had I think 2 tax returns being processed. We're still waiting to hear back from people we've worked for in the past for about 25, and we had 30 out for signing. I've come in this morning, I can see 10 of those 30 are signed. Like, I've got visibility, so I'm not stressing about it. I'm not worried. And I know how many emails and phone calls we've put into the people that we haven't heard from yet, and we know they're just annual clients that may come back, they may not. A lot of them were people that were just doing self-assessment during COVID, that they just did a bit of a secondary income gig along with their furlough. So we're kind of expecting them not to reply and not to come back to us, but we didn't want to just ignore them. So yeah, I think my key takeaway is maintaining that focus from the 6th of April onwards. Mm-hmm. And also just making sure you've got complete visibility in your practice management software. So you can just have a dashboard that shows you this is where the statuses are for each one. And we've also got our little countdown widget at the bottom. So we know where we are throughout the year. So last year, I think we wanted to I can't remember actually. We wanted to average X amount a week of tax returns. So up until August, we were very much, oh yeah, we're smashing this, we're doing this, like, because we could see our progress on a weekly basis. But then after August, we just took our eye off the ball. But yeah, the focus and visibility of your workload, they're my 2 key takeaways. What about yours, Aaron?
No, I love those. And I got to mimic. I mean, we've spoke about it before, especially last week, about the fact that practice management is so key. And we even had Chris, didn't we, tell us on we have cool friends, how important that was his key takeaway. And it's so true. Like, this year has been such an eye-opener for me. And, you know, and it's more that smaller practice of mine. Like, that's the one where I've struggled at this year. That's the one where I've had the most pain. And it is just lack of a practice management solution. You know, I've outgrown an Excel spreadsheet. It's as simple as that. And for me to open my eyes and see that is, you know, I should have done that a long, long time ago, because in Bofix, it was always a case of we were, you know, practice management from day one, and we've never had these issues. We've never had to have this mad rush of actually how many tax returns have I got to file, you know, having to sit down and compile a list from HMRC sort of thing. It's like you said, that visibility is so important, and it just gives you that focus from day one. I think my other takeaway this year is, like, technology is really starting to help more than ever. This year we've been so much more proactive in the Bofix side of things, because we've been able to use automations of chasing clients. We've been able to make sure we know when clients are filling in the information they need to. We can push back at them a little bit as well, because if they haven't provided us with their checklist, well, that's why their tax return hasn't been done yet. It's that, you know, it's a really straightforward process that everyone knows, and that means that clients understand. They go, oh yeah, no, I keep seeing these reminders, I've just not got around to it. Yeah, I'll get them done. They provide the information, and they get their tax return. You know, there's a process. There's no, you know, it's not that we're holding, you know, because of capacity, we're holding it back because we just don't have that information yet. Being able to click a button and 80% of the time, I wish it was more, but 80% of the time, their P60s and P11Ds just appear on the system for us. You know, that used to be, this time of year, we used to be chasing clients where that's all they need. They just need to provide us a P60 and we could get their tax return done. Now it's already there. We've already been able to process it and they're already ready to go. So, you know, technology's made a huge, huge benefit to us. One frustrating part of this year, though, that we found, and I think it's just because people aren't talking about it anymore, and it's less of a buzzword, and that's crypto. Like, it was almost quote unquote sexy, wasn't it, this time last year to talk about crypto and bring that into the fold. The amount of clients that have just got to the end and like we've just said to them, just bear in mind that you had cryptocurrency last year, and we were doing some capital gains for you and everything else, and this time they turn around and go, oh yeah. Now most of the time is because now they're in a loss-making position, they're not as there's probably less risk involved, etc.
Yeah.
But it is worthwhile to kind of just prod them and talk about them. And the amount of clients that have just come back to and says, oh yeah, there was that little bit of crypto that I dealt with 750 lines later of their extraction of from their software. And it's like, that's what's been taking up the time. That's been our last minute quote unquote rush this year. It's just been piling through those sort of things and getting them done. And again, technology can help, but sometimes, when it's just a one-off thing that, they're not going to be worrying about this time next year, then it's just a case of putting it through Excel and doing a bit of pivot table and, going the old-fashioned way, if you like, to get it sorted. But I have seen more than my fair share of people kind of leaving it to the last minute with those, or completely forgetting and not even worrying about the crypto side of things, which has been interesting to see.
But that's the benefit of using accounting software like KPM or TaxFiler, isn't it?
Yeah.
If it's the second time this client's done a tax return with you, their softwares prompt you and say, well, these are the sections you filled out last year. And it make you go, oh yeah, we did do it. Hang on a minute. We had it the other week where we said, you had a small employed job last year. Have you still got that? Oh yeah. Yeah, I have. Here you go. Like, right, come on. But yeah, it's an ongoing challenge.
It is an ongoing challenge, but it is one of those, I think, for whatever reason, people just aren't talking about it as much, and it's not in the forefront, and it's been such a surprise to people to go, oh yeah, that's one. And then the other one that's happened this year is kind of a bit to what you were saying, but there's been more free advice than ever before. Like clients just booking in for a little call and just having this conversation maybe this time last year, and then they think that they can just do it again this year. And I don't know if it's because we're so kind of publicly focused these days, with YouTube and everything else, but we're just getting more and more of these people who are just booking it in, and it's really weird that people kind of think that that's okay, and it's having to have those awkward conversations. Go, look, we had this conversation last time. Even if you just buy a license off us or something, be part of the Bofix ecosystem. We can have these continued chats with you, and we can help you, but at the same time, we have to draw a line. We can't just give away free advice all the time. And I've just seen that as a bit of a downside, really, of the kind of being so much forward facing than we've ever been before. We've kind of encouraged these people to book in, and we've yet to find a solution where we're not offending people, but at the same time we're protecting our stance on it as well. So we're looking into ways in which we can, maybe put a fee up front for certain phone calls and certain calls and stuff. If they are just, we know that they're just going to be a person who's not any intention of joining us, they just want some advice, then how do we monetize that and push that forward? So that's been our other kind of big takeaway from that. Have you kind of come across it? Is it something that's been a problem at your end?
Yeah, I mean, I had a few calls last week where people booked in and like they wanted to know if they needed to do a tax return.
Yeah.
It's like, most of them were done in 5 minutes. Like, no, you've got until this point because when you started, blah, blah, blah. And then one guy wasn't sure. And then I said to it, we went through it and he's like, yes, you do. And he went, oh, right. Well, I used to do it on the website a few years ago, but I'm back to being self-employed again after a while. I've got this employment. Does that make it more difficult? I said, no, just tick the right questions. Yes. On like, I can do it for you. But like, there's no real point. Like, you can do it yourself. To which he walked away a happy man. So, but yeah, we do get those clients that the main one we've seen is clients that are paying for a tax return, and then think that includes all the bookkeeping.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's like no. Or they make a complete and utter mess of their bookkeeping. Then they're surprised when we go back to them saying, look, A, you need to redo this. B, going forwards, if this is how you're going to present your information, this is the fee.
Exactly.
So yeah, we we have got a bit more. We've certainly got stricter on our scope creep when it comes to tax returns and the bookkeeping element of it, because a lot of people are coming to us and thinking it includes everything, and it's like, no, you're getting too big now for us to do your bookkeeping as a freebie. So
yeah. And it's awkward, isn't it, to have those conversations, especially when you did it maybe the first year and you did it as a favor to them, and it's very difficult to make sure that they understand that was a one-off and having that conversation.
Yeah.
But it has to be done, and if not, then you're going to end up with a very difficult January, because all you're ending up doing is cleaning up work that either proactively, if you've helped the client, they would have cleaned it up for them, or you've just not had that conversation with them to make it aware. I also think, like, especially this year, like what you're saying there about helping people for the first time, absolutely fine. And I'm always going to be able to, and we're trying to encourage ways in which we can make it so that clients can get in touch with us a lot easier, not just your traditional phone call, but let's look at other ways. Let's look at WhatsApp and Facebook and all these other ways in which we can make it so it's easier to have those conversations with clients to try and encourage them. But it's when it's 12 months on and they're asking the same questions again, and that's the bit that I'm struggling to find that solution for. And unfortunately for us, it's been a lot of it this year, and there's been a lot of those, and it's finding ways and finding solutions to go through there, but hopefully we find the right solutions.
TimWorks is bringing out a chat API powered bot for its users. So one of the things we get a lot of, as you probably, even though you put the information in the email or on the breakdown sheet on top, so how much do I have to pay HMRC,
and how do I pay it?
And how do I pay HMRC? So they did a demonstration video where they typed in, how do I pay my self-assessment tax return to HMRC? And it pulled through the information and told them how to do it. And it's like that, just those seconds saved based on the amount of pain we've had of it in the last 3 or 4 weeks would be huge.
Yeah.
So yeah, that'll be interesting to see how that goes with Chat API powering TimWorks's bot.
I like it a lot. I mean, they're the sort of solutions that we need to start embracing, isn't it? Especially when MTD does ever finally come out of the woodwork and starts being a real thing, then that we're going to need these to kind of help those smaller clients. Let's just go back to chat though. So John's up out of bed early. Well done. Well, glad that you've been able to come and join us. We really appreciate it. The best thing since sliced bread, well, being tax season for me, it's got to be the fact that HMRC's API is actually working this year, isn't it? And we can, like I just said, bring those P60s in. It's absolutely changed the game for us. What about you, Johann? You got anything that you think is the best thing since sliced bread?
I'll give John a helping hand here. Probably DigiTools for an Accrual World podcast. Fantastic podcast. No, I mean, just the amount of automation that's out there, and softwares that have got the business firm owners back. So we use Capium for tax filing, and it's all too easy just to hit submit for a tax return and never look at it again, and then realize last minute it failed. Whereas Capium's support team have been brilliant. They keep emailing saying this one's failed and that one's failed or whatever it is. Now, 9 out of 10 times it's because I've got a bit click happy and pressed file and pressed that button twice within seconds, and it's created a duplicate filing. But the fact that softwares have got your back, and there's a huge amount of value in these smaller softwares. You've got all your big softwares that are tackling how to go onto the cloud or how to be MTD ITSA ready or whatever it is. And then you've got the small guys that are going, well, how can we use Chat API, the latest trend, to power our software and make things better? How could you imagine a big, tax calc or Iris or Sage sat there monitoring whether your tax return submissions are failing and then notifying you of it? Sometimes playing with the smaller players has got real hidden value that you just do not take appreciation of until they do it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I mean, with that Capium thing, they ran me twice today while we've been in this.
Already?
Yeah. And I know which one as well, because I was filing one last night and it failed. So they're ringing to say, look, this has failed. And, I know it's failed. I'm on top of it. But if I'd have just clicked it blindly and just walked away from it, I'd be under the impression everything's done and dusted, wouldn't I? So, yeah. And it was my own tax return, so I am very much I want to make sure that's done and completed. Bev's here as well. So, hello, Bev. We're best. I was going to make a statement on Iris being a bit a bit out of date, but we'll keep that to one side. And Paul says the following: lots of time last week I've been explaining payment on account, so many of the first time or helping people pay tax or apply their government gateway or tax conditional code. You know what? This year, and it is back in this year, isn't it? If you think about it, because we had that drop because of COVID where people weren't earning as much. Then they're going back in and we're having to almost reinvent the whip, or relearn clients or re-explain to clients exactly what payment account is. Because they've fallen out of it, it's become a big shock to them to come back in. So he's absolutely right. I mean, the amount of times we've had to send that video that we do of explaining payment account has been constant. And I've always been a little bit nervous about, do you just send it? Does it almost seem arrogant that you just sending a video instead of spending your time just explaining it? But ultimately, from especially from our clients, most of the reason they're with us is because they've seen us on YouTube at one point anyway. So actually, them getting a video of, look, here's an explainer, any problems, book in with us and let's have a proper chat with it. But here's an explainer of how it is. That they actually really appreciate that, because they can sit back, look at it, watch it, and hopefully understand it from there. But yeah, Paul, you're absolutely right. This year, payment account's been an absolute nightmare to kind of get people's heads around again, hasn't it?
Yeah. It's also reminding the team that the last couple of years have been a bit funny. So we always compare last year's and this year's tax bills and go, are we happy that's about right?
Yeah.
Based on what we know about the client. But actually, I've been saying to the guys, no, we need to compare it to to the tax bill 3 years ago, because that's the last time we had a like-for-like trading scenario. The previous 2 years have been COVID hit. Like, you can't rely on it as a guiding light. So you need to compare it to the last few years instead of just the one, and just make sure it's right.
Yeah, definitely, 100%. And with software, again, with it being so straightforward, it's so easy to do that these days, isn't it? And maybe that's, if anyone's listening, maybe that's where they could actually absolutely win. Why haven't we got a profit and loss comparison-esque tax return SA 302 kind of view? How cool would that be to have it all in one? Have the opportunity to have each year go there and spot any gaps or anything that's coming through. Also, Paul says we use the email template for most. Chatbot would help, but it doesn't stop the calls or pop-ins. It certainly doesn't. And it's how aggressive you want to be with that. We to kind of help with our call handling-esque approach, we do outsource call handling, and being remote, that's the only way we could do it. But we have to be very upfront with clients that if you want to talk with us, the best way to do is book a chat with us and use these links to book a chat. And then as long as you're upfront with the clients and you're explaining to them that's going to be the best way, the call's always going to be there, in one way or another you'll get through to us, but it won't be as efficient as booking a call in up front and having that predefined one. Is that similar sort of approach to what you guys do?
Yeah, so we answer our own calls, but like the admin who takes the calls will say, look, he's busy, I'll get him to call you back, but actually you're better off booking a call in using the link, because the chances are he'll try and call you back and you're then busy. Then you're going to call back and he's busy. Like, we're wasting everyone's time. Just book a call because those times in that diary are free. Book a call when you're going to be free, and we'll do it. It just saves everyone's time.
Exactly, and especially during these busy times, like we spend, part of our morning when we're doing our work in progress meeting or our daily roundup meeting, where we're actually talking to the whole team, and we have a bit of a get together for half an hour to understand what's going on Teams. And part of that time is we check to make sure that we are available. So we go through and look publicly looking, how do we look, have we got slots for people and everything else? So there's that element of admin side of things. And, you've also got to be very, very careful of your own calendar and make sure you're booking out time so that you don't double book or whatever it's going to be. But once you get over that and you look at it, clients actually prefer it more, because they know that, at this point we're going to be talking about them, and we've got their full attention for that half an hour, whatever it's going to be. We've prepared beforehand. We're not umming and ahhing. Because we've got it all prepped. Like, you give yourself 15 minutes before each call just to get open, even if it's just their last year's tax return or whatever it's going to be, just so you've got a bit of substance for that meeting. It completely changes the game, and I highly recommend, if anyone's not doing that, please, look at solutions to get yourself an external calendar booking system and just pass it out there and give it a go, because it completely changed the way that we deal with clients. And yes, there are a few clients that still prefer a good phone call here and there, but you can put that as a solution. Like, you can have and give them the option to call back. It doesn't have to be on just Teams or Zoom or whatever they're doing. And it works really well. Two other people chatted. So we've got morning to Lillian. Good morning, Lillian. And then we're talking about scope of outsourced work from UK in India. So I'm sure that's been very topical for tax return season this year. Any more feedback you've got from this year's tax returns, or should we move on to the next topic there, Johann?
No, I think it's just my overriding advice is, look, no one's ever got this right. No one will ever get it right. There'll always be room for improvement. And I'm certainly got days planned in the next few weeks where, so I'm down at QuickBooks next week in London. That gives me 4 hours before the meeting, 4 hours after the meeting on a train, where I'm just going to be able to put my headphones in and focus on breaking down what we did, what went well, what didn't go well, and coming up with plans of how we solve the bits that didn't go well and how we continue things that did go well. I would just, whatever you do, take some time out, whether that's going for a walk, whether that's sitting on a train for 4 hours, whatever you need to do, just to reflect back on how the last 9 months have been and what you can do to go forwards, to make sure it's the best for you and it improves on the previous year next year.
Yeah, great bit of advice. Great bit of advice, and and maybe put a podcast or two while you're listening to on the train as well.
Listen back to this podcast while you're on the train, and it will remind you to then start making some notes and reflect on things.
Saving each practice one podcast at a time. Paul also says, used to use Square Appointments, but recently switched to MS Bookings. Yeah, with you on that one. The only downside of MS Bookings, though, the Microsoft Bookings, for people not aware, is that we can't monetize it. Whereas Square Bookings, we did have that option. So, it's a bit of kind of catch-22, but they're coming forward. We've got a really quick topic, but it's kind of got into the public domain here. So, on the Telegraph of all places, they were talking about how HMRC, and their headline is HMRC has spent 24 hours on hold. A particular person was reporting on there. Unfortunately, I can't read the rest of it because I have to pay for their subscription. But, let's just go by what their title says and go from there. But as a follow-up topic...
clickbait, here we go.
Exactly. But on follow-up topic, Accountancy Age talks about how the HMRC's call handling and the fact that they've got 24 hours wait. I imagine you could just book an appointment with HMRC,
Yeah.
Yeah, imagine you just went in, booked your slot, they forward you back. Everyone would be happy, wouldn't they? But as the 31st of January deadline looms, accounting firms face increased workload as HMRC customer service delays persist. And if a client is being told it's 24 hours that they've got to sit there on the phone for, unlikely they're going to help us and actually go and call the HMRC on our behalf, isn't it? Which means that we're going to have to spend X amount of time, 45 minutes plus, we're going to be sat on the phone call trying to solve issues. And there's no easy solution for this, but HMRC has to be taking this as a year where they go, you know what, we dropped the ball, we're not helping people. I get this whole impression where and I do appreciate it on the call now, it's very much a case of, look, if you're just looking for a P60 or a P11D, then please, or in fact they're even telling us, aren't they, we will not give you this information at this point. You will have to go online and you're going to have to do that. And for 90% of the clients, that's absolutely fine. I'm more than happy to do that. It encourages clients to get their digital account up and running. Most of the time we can just get that for them nowadays, using the API links and using software to extract that information. So we're helping HMRC take the pressure off by using technology and using the opportunity to do that. But every now and again, we're going to be in a position where that's not going to be available. You know, if we've got someone who's never used the internet before, or whatever it's going to be, you know, we've got to be able to help them as well. So yeah, they've got to realise this year that especially for the accountants that are just trying to help, like we're just trying to take workload off there. So we don't want to be on the phone for 45 minutes. Like there's got to be a better way for us to do it. So yeah, what I mean, you've had personal experience this year, haven't you? Which you talked about a couple of episodes ago.
Yeah, I mean, their wait times are just phenomenal at the moment. But what's even more annoying is the time. So I've got a team member who spent 3 lots of 45 minutes on hold to HMRC to get through. Yeah. Then the client rings me and says, I've just spoke to HMRC. And I said, oh, how long were you on hold? Oh, it went straight through. So hang on a minute. It starts making you wonder, are we blacklisted? You know, do they know, oh, these guys are accountants, they can wait. We're just going to deal with the taxpayers as best we can. That number's registered somewhere. Now, that would imply HMRC have got software. That's quite powerful somewhere. Whether they have or not is a very different matter. I mean, they can't take callback bookings, so probably not. But yeah, it's just that chance call of that client getting through. And I was saying, we are trying HMRC, we can't get through. Well, I just got through. It's like, great. That makes us look like idiots. So
your question, was it HMRC got through to, or was it some sort of scam line that he...
Oh, yeah.
That's the worry, isn't it?
What would be really helpful from HMRC, and based on what we have as softwares available these days, I don't see why they shouldn't be able to do this, is that they have a graph that shows how busy they are on the phone lines at any time on their website. So when you watch any of these documentaries about ambulances or police and call centres, you know, we've got these big screens that are saying we've got this amount of calls on hold, we've got this amount, this is the average response time, this is the amount of time we're spending on each call. If they could display that information for us on the HMRC website, then we wouldn't be calling when they've got their peak amount of, you know, if they've got 100 people on hold, we're not going to call.
Exactly.
If we see that then drop off to 10, we're going to get into that queue. So having that visibility of information would be amazing. But I can't see HMRC ever doing that, unfortunately. But it would make life a lot easier.
Oh, it would. It certainly would. And we've got a funny story from back in the day. We're wet behind the ears of how we helped HMRC with their call handling. We were playing around with Google Analytics and Google AdWords and stuff, and we were pushing it through Google and trying to be top of the search rankings and everything else. And somehow, don't know how we did it, but we ended up being above HMRC in taking phone calls in terms of helping you do your tax codes. So suddenly our phones were absolutely lit up of people trying to just change their tax codes. So that helped HMRC. It cost us a lot of money, and we got ultimately nowhere with it. But yeah, that's a solution that HMRC might want to look at in the future, incentivizing accountants just to do the work for them. But yeah, lesson learned on that one.
Are you doing your own SEO?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, well, there's your first lesson. Don't do it yourself.
Never do your own. Yeah, exactly. We were also fighting with QuickBooks on trying to be above them, and then realizing that they were also pushing us anyway. So yeah, it was a chicken and egg scenario that didn't go right for anyone. But anyway, yeah, the things you learn at the very beginning. Next one, unfortunately, we have some bad news to talk about here, and that is that we've had our first casualty in the world of MTD ITSA. So this is from the great people at Accounting Web, and they've reported that tax sheets become the first MTD ITSA software casualty. So the ripple effects of making tax digital for income tax lay have now spread to the software world. We knew this was coming, didn't we, unfortunately? It's first of however many it's going to be, unfortunately. And this is not good at all. But this is what HMRC kind of probably knew and probably expected when they kind of made their decision. And yeah, it's one of those. I think what it means for us, though, is those softwares that you've just said who are trying, who are coming out there, we've got to support them, haven't we, with accountants? We've got to try and push them as much as possible, even if, you know, maybe their solution isn't quite for now, it's for the future. Well, we need to find ways to make it more attractive to clients now. things like Hammock, for example, like, yes, they are not as needed as they should have been at this time of its life cycle, but we know how much good it can do for our clients. So let's keep pushing them, and let's keep pushing the best in service. If anything, it makes us look better as accountants, because we're pushing the best software to help clients and help them going forward. It's that kind of business advisory-esque mode, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if tax sheets shows us anything, it's the danger of niching too far. Like Hammock is a fantastic solution regardless of MTD ITSA. Hammock is a brilliantly powerful solution for any landlords, especially if they've got multiple properties. Even more so if those multiple properties are in various different legal setups for businesses. So they've got a huge pain point resolved for the landlord industry, regardless of whether they need to be MTD registered or not. The benefit of Hammock is multiple, and we should be pushing it anyway.
Exactly.
And it helps us digitalize that industry very, very well. Tax Sheets was targeting the smaller tax return people via MTD ITSA. And as soon as HMRC turned around and said, we don't need you to do it if you've got under £30,000 turnover, Tax Sheets was dead in the water. They've got no other, they aren't a solution for anything else. That was their one egg, and they dropped it. Whereas hopefully others like, QuickBooks Xero and Sage, obviously they're not going to be seeing the growth they're expecting, but they're not going to be damaged too much by this because they've got so many different solutions and they solve so many different problems, as Hammock do. But anyone that was just building a solution just to get you take your spreadsheet and file it to MTD through an ITSA approved process, which would only be the smaller turnovers anyway. So the majority of those people have now been discounted from the onboarding process due in 2027. So, and their tool wasn't needed now until 2026 at the earliest. So yeah, it's not a surprise they've gone under straight away, and they're the first. I think we're going to see a few more unless they can pivot and do it very quickly and explain to the market how they're going to solve other solutions other than just this one thing.
Yeah, completely. But it's what do they pivot to? Like you were saying with tax sheets, unfortunately they went so niche that there was nothing else that they could pivot to. Like they were basically living on the fact that there was going to be a compliance reason that people would need to use this piece of software. And unfortunately that's not there, is it? So
you can't bank on HMRC to take a call, never mind
yeah, exactly.
Change their mind.
Yeah, completely right. And yeah, it's a shame. I remember seeing kind of like a demo of the software. It was impressive what it was. It ended it was an Excel spreadsheet kind of but it was impressive for what it could do, and there was going to be use cases for it. The reason MTD ITSA was kind of delayed was because of those problematic situations, like your farmers of the world and things like that we still haven't got a wholesale solution for, have we? So yeah, fingers crossed that we don't see too many more casualties and that there are abilities to pivot. Or as I've said before, as accountants, we've probably got to take a bit of ownership of this, and we've got to help push software. I know there's this argument that as accountants we've become more of a selling organization, and we've become sellers, and that's there was that whole argument, wasn't there, about how we feel like, or accountants are feeling like all we're doing is pushing software down clients' throats these days. But that's part of the business advisory moniker, isn't it? That's what we've got to see it as. Like, we're looking at ways in which we can help clients and make it so that they can grow. And I think ultimately that's what we've got to take on board, and we've got to find cool pieces of software that's going to help clients, help us as well. Great, but yeah, we've got to be more proactive in that sort of world. So yeah, I think hopefully it's also a waking up for us as accountants at the same time.
Definitely.
Awesome. Okay. Right. So a little bit of a thingy topic, this one. So there's been an advert that's come out onto our ecosystem about chickens. So people be wondering out there why chickens have got anything to do with us accountants, but I don't know. I think there's a big need for this video. Okay, give me 20 seconds to do a bit of technical jiggery pokery, and let me actually show it on screen, because I actually think it's quite a nice little video. But I know Johann's got a different approach to it. So Johann, just give me a thumbs up if you can hear this in a moment.
I mean, I don't want to hear it again. No, can't hear that.
One day this will work. First time, every time. Let me just do one more thing.
This is what happens when you work with amateurs.
And
all the gear, no idea.
You hear it.
Nope.
No,
can't hear a thing.
Well, that bit didn't work as according to plan. Okay. We'll tell you what's going on it then. We're going to have to do it that way around, as technology has completely failed me, unfortunately. But do you want to let's just talk it through? Now I can hear it. You know what? Actually, could that work?
No. Never mind.
All right. All right, let me turn this down and we'll just talk about it. Anyway, there's a video out there at the moment from QuickBooks, and it's about a chicken, or a cafe, isn't it? And the cafe is doing a load of eggs. They've got final reminders, and a chicken turns up to the cafe, and the cafe itself, is owner's not very happy because these chickens are in, and then she gets upset. But she wakes up from a dream, and QuickBooks is there. Kind of sums it up, isn't it? I mean,
yeah.
Nice to actually have heard it, but yeah.
Basically, cafe owners stress that she's behind on paying her bills, and that her suppliers are going to come and want their bills paid. And she's cooking eggs, so the suppliers are chickens. So chickens walk into this cafe, and she gets concerned, and then QuickBooks saves the day because she's actually on top of all the bills because she was using QuickBooks. I mean, I couldn't work out how they dreamt this up, but actually, this morning it came to me. I think they were given a brief. Right. They gave someone a brief. Go come up with an advert. I think that person went home, and they sat with their young family and watched the Pixar movie Bee, where the bees revolt about humans using their honey. And then they thought, well, chickens, cafe, eggs. I mean, yeah, that's the only thing I can think of. This is a UK advert for for QuickBooks' UK campaign.
Yeah.
I would argue the cafe looks extremely American Diner-like. It doesn't look like a cafe I've been into in the UK.
Interesting point. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not convinced that this. Yeah, I don't know what's more irritating, this one or the small people one, if I'm honest.
Now that is a hot take. Now I am a little bit concerned about our podcast friends who are just listening in. So you might just want to try and find this video just so you can get some context. But it's called Get Peace of Mind, Get QuickBooks, and it's on the QuickBooks UK's official YouTube channel. So that'll be the place to find it. But that is a very hot take that you think this is on par with the last video. But yeah, carry on, Johann. What were you about to say?
I almost think these style of adverts that are, so this was broadcast for the first time on TV during the Man City game. I just think it's deprofessionalizing our industry. Really? Now, I'm not one of these snobs that thinks we should all be in shirts and ties or anything like that. I'm jeans and t-shirt kind of guy. Doesn't bother me. I'm not formal in any way, but I do think this is taking it too far. But yeah, I'm not really sure what the underlying message is meant to be, that a business owner goes, I saw some chickens on TV, I'm going to get QuickBooks. That's the pain point I have, is chickens coming into my cafe and wanting their money. I'll have to get QuickBooks. That will solve that problem. So yeah, I'm not impressed. Can we tell?
I can tell indeed. Now, my take on that, the bit that not confused, but the bit that kind of gets me to kind of talk about this a little bit more, or at least like looking at it in a bit more positive light, is if we compare this to the last one that they did, where for anyone who can't remember the last one, it was the talking people and the obnoxious sound that came on that hurt your ears, and there's this whole element to it that was basically unneeded, wasn't it? And also it was a really mixed message where it was telling people that QuickBooks can get things done and you don't really need an accountant, and also telling people, and it was actually factually incorrect. It was telling people they could file all their taxes through QuickBooks. So if you take it in comparison from what was released then to what's released now, we are massively improved and massively there's actual factual elements to it than was before. So there's a marked improvement, maybe not enough, but if you compare it just to what was released now and what was released then okay, we not hit the mark maybe, but at least we got in a much better position than we were back then. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I mean, it's not making any false claims this time. That is a bonus, don't get me wrong. But again, it's not involving that accounting community. Like, there's no reference to their pro advisor listings. There's no reference to working alongside an accountant with this tool. Like, yeah, whether there needs to be in credit control, I don't know. It's certainly not a service we get a huge amount of requests for from small businesses. But yeah, it's interesting. Some interesting comments coming in as well. So we've got a comment from Sarah Hunt saying, not aimed at vegan accountants and business owners then. I hope it's at least got a good soundtrack, given I've not heard it yet. I can't say it has. It's not catchy, put it that way. I've not got the soundtrack going through my mind all the time. Shame the ad tagline doesn't reference anything to do with eggs, breakfast or chickens.
I mean, we brought more puns to the table than their ad did, didn't we? And
we have. Yeah. Because this one's about get connected, get QuickBooks. Is that was the ad, the tagline at the bottom? That
wasn't the slogan, but yeah.
I'll tell
you, but yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's get powered by QuickBooks, wasn't it? Get peace of mind, get QuickBooks.
Yeah, and there's a radio advert going around now just as well called I've now forgotten what the tagline was. I had it a second ago. But yeah, there's a few of these similar taglines that just seem to imply getting this one bit of software is going to solve it all.
Yeah.
And yeah. Paul says it reminds him of the Zero robot advert. Sometimes you can try to be funny and gimmicky too much.
I mean, the fact we're talking about it, they've done something that it's at least memorable.
They've irritated us further than the little people. I mean, Christ, that was a challenge.
No, they haven't. I will never take the fact that this is a worse advert or a worse approach than that. That bar was so low when it came to that last video that there is no way that this bar is any lower. Marginally higher, maybe.
Same place then. It's not worse. But yeah, and what's upsetting me is this is the first time we've seen it, and we know this is going to be played for the next 6 months on every. The benefit of Netflix is if you pay for the right subscription, you don't have to watch this stuff.
We do know that there are other videos on the same topic, though, don't we? And we do know that those other videos have better, just better imagery, shall we say? So yeah, they'll be ones I think will be positive, better, or at least than the chicken one. So yeah,
we'll see.
Yeah, but I also don't think this is aimed at us as accountants, because it's a very mobile-esque advert, isn't it?
It's not aimed at us at all. It's aimed at business owners.
Yeah,
but it's giving a false placebo that business owners can just need QuickBooks. The majority of them, I would say, need more than just QuickBooks. Like, QuickBooks isn't going to explain to them how VAT works. Like, I'm dealing with a lot of cafes and restaurants at the moment that are really struggling because their VAT rates have gone back up from the 5 and 12.5 and whatever they've had, and all of a sudden their food prices are going up, and they've increased their menu prices, but they've then not increased the amount they were charging for VAT because they've forgotten about it or whatever's happened. And yeah, there's just so much more to running a business than having a tool. It's a fantastic tool and it's a tool in your arsenal, but you need to know how to use it properly. Otherwise, you're trying to hammer in a screw or screw in a nail or something. Like, you're using the wrong tool for the job, or you're not using the right tool in the right way. So yeah, it's not improved my impression of their approach to the direct customer at all.
I just feel like we're better than we were. The bar is a little bit higher. We're not there yet, but we're going in the right way. I was surprised that you're so anti it. I thought you'd be at least marked a little bit more. But yeah, no, I can see the points you made.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm just no.
Fair play. But again, at least we haven't got the and I don't think there's any social push for this one. At least the worst part about the last one was not only was it factually incorrect and horrible sound and it burst and offensive to both your eardrums and your eyes, that there was also that social campaign around it as well, where you were trying to like use the music to do a TikTok dance or whatever it was that they were trying to push with it. And that was let's
see what comes out this week.
There's a challenge for everyone who's listening. Let's see who can get the first TikTok video relating to dressing up as a chicken and going into a cafe. Tell them should be.
Who can juggle the most eggs?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we will see. We'll see which came first, chicken or the egg. That's what the videos will be around. So yeah, and that's it. I think that's today's webinar podcast all done and dusted. As you know, the best way to get in touch with us, I'm going to stick it in the comments section now, is if you do have a question, use the link. We do have a couple of questions in there, but we'll save them for next time, as I'm sure everyone's ready to get back to their busy season or busy last couple of days, last hours. So we do hope everyone has a very good last couple of hours, just so it's all done and dusted. Johann, any kind of things you want to push, talk about? Anything you've got planned for this week that people should be aware of?
No, obviously self-assessment tax return tomorrow. If anyone wasn't aware,
really?
Yeah, we might need to get that done. But yeah, and I'm doing a live demo for a Facebook group of Client Engager on Friday. We've got over 80 people subscribed for that one already. So yeah, no pressure on me, but if this goes wrong, it's on me. But yeah, no, I'm just cracking on as per normal. Looking forward to that pressure as of tomorrow being gone, and we can have a bit of time of reflection and look back on things, maybe do some VAT returns. You know, bit of variety is the spice of life, isn't it? So I suppose I ought to check if there's any end of year accounts due by the 31st of January. I don't think there is. I think we're miles ahead, but I better check.
Yeah, well, that's at least got a good tool to help you with that one. So, yeah, Client Engager will help you make sure those are done and dusted. For me, it is just getting that tax return done and dusted, finished, and maybe even because as most accountants think out there, we did work the whole of the weekend, so nice to have a bit of a downtime. It'll be nice to kind of get back to a bit of normality. So, but like Johann's already said, the most important thing is to learn from these mistakes this year. That's certainly what we'll be doing. And we'll be looking at improving our prospects for next time. So yeah, it's all good. Thank you for everyone for chatting in the chat. We've had some really good points being made, and that's exactly what this is all about. And thank you for everyone who's putting questions as well. So remember, if you do have any questions, use the link. Make sure you put it through there. Don't forget that we'll be live on podcast services of your choice on Wednesday. So, and if you are listening on the podcast, why not join us live 8:30 a.m. on a Monday morning, where we're here for your listening pleasure. So that's it from myself and Johann today. So it's a goodbye from me.
And goodbye from me.
Wonderful. And we'll see you all in a week's time. Bye.
See you later.